Hi, I'm Breandax,
And I'm T.
and we're going to listen to some music.
We're back.
Look, we already wanted to do this
Yeah.
because it makes sense, but oh my God, even if we didn't, you told us loud and clear.
We have no choice but to deliver. And you know what we're delivering on?
Tell
They
him.
would know because they saw the title. We're listening to Ethel Cain's Preacher's Daughter, which I believe is her first major full-length album release. And I think it came out a few years ago. Not more than 4, not less than 2. And my understanding about Preacher's Daughter is that it's a bit more of a poppy, less kind of ambient, less experimental album. It was what got her into the spotlight initially with a pretty wide and diverse fan base, and a pretty mainstream fan base, which have since then either been weirded out and left or leaned in even further to some of the, what would you call them, Cainisms of our dear Ethel Cain.
It's Star Wars. That's what I know about it.
It's Star Wars.
Yes, because the original came out first and then they released a prequel.
Ah, yes.
And so this is why we were so interested to do Preacher's Daughter not long after our last Ethel video, is because it thematic or like canonically follows on from Willoughby Tucker, Willoughby Cake. Who knows?
Let's get right into it and start with track 1, Family Tree Intro. Okay, Lana.
And Christ forgive these bones of mine. Jesus can always reject a scream and try to wash away from the family tree. Leave me
Very quickly, that felt, at least for a good chunk of it, like an early Lana Del Rey song. Just the way it was drenched in reverb and the way that the vocals were very like bony, like very like using that delivery to like go through a melody rather than like a very kind of clear delivery. That's interesting.
The way that I think that vocal technique makes me think of is almost like someone who's wading through water. And it gives me this sense of like it's a bit ethereal, it's a bit ghost like. There's this drag, literally this drag to the sound because it's sung in a way that is very flowy and connected, very ominous, painting the space that we're in. And yeah, and those notes, when it opened, I'm like, oh, this is like the bottom 3 notes of my range. I recognize them. So maybe that's why I took a liking to it. But I kind of liked how there was a bit of like a detuning warbling effect to that as well. And it made me think that it was, again, playing with a bit of like time. So that made me think, okay, these lyrics, is this describing something that's happening right now, or is it telling about something that happened in the past? To me, it actually feels like it's telling about something that might be happening into the future. Not literally describing a scene, but kind of describing maybe the place where our character, Ethel, ends up. And then at the end there, obviously, there is some demise of our protagonist. There's references to hanging from a tree, whether that is
A
like
family tree.
well, I think, and that's just really deep in that connection about like family and what you can't choose and what sort of leads you to a certain situation and just having to navigate through that as well. Yeah, so very interested to see where we're going to go from here.
Next song is American Teenager. I've heard this song. I like this song. I think you might have heard it too,
Okay.
but you might not recognize it by name. Interesting track to have after the first one. This is so Bruce Springsteen. Straight up. That guitar part is so corny.
Okay, so with our last Ethel video, I was having good chat in the comments about someone was saying that Hayden's first interest was actually filmmaking. But because of like COVID and access to resources and what was also like more financially viable, songwriting and then producing music was more accessible and something that could more easily be done in her house and where she lived. And that's how she kind of like dove more into making music. And so I see what you mean, how American Teenager sonically seems very disconnected and different to the Family Tree track. But if we think about it as a movie, and if that is really just that flash forward to the end emotional state of where our protagonist is going, and now we're starting at the beginning of the story, that's what American Teenager gave me. It was fresh, it was youthful. I could hear on so many different like genres or different tropes or different styles of like other music coming through in this song. Obviously it's got that pop rock element to it in some ways, and in a very like storytelling slice of life kind of manner, in a way that some older, say, Taylor Swift type country, and just as a representation of country pop rock style of music. In some parts of it with the rock, it made me think of like Irish rock pop bands from the 90s as well, like
So interesting that you're going in this direction.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That typical guitar trope that you commented. The What do you call it? It's not a riff. What would you call it?
It's just like it's a guitar. It is a riff, I guess.
Arpeggio?
No, it's like when sometimes you do it like tapping, like
Okay.
descending.
That made me
notes.
instantly think of like Journey, Don't Stop Believing.
So where I went immediately with this is Bruce Springsteen. 100%. This sounds like a Bruce Springsteen hit from the 80s, whatever, that period of time. Songs like Dancing in the Dark and like Born in the USA, like power rock.
Oh.
But Ethel's vocal delivery does have it has a level of power behind it, but it's not that like traditional, almost corny at this point.
It's a different kind of energy that's coming through there.
Yeah. And I think that's probably intentional to have a song like this pay homage to such iconic, typically American songs.
Yep.
There was mention in the track about like coming back from war, like him being drafted or something.
I think it was just really painting the picture of like where we are and
we're in high school, I feel like, with this
we're in high school where, I mean, we know a little bit about like with Hayden's background or Ethel's, the character's background as well. Small American town, Christian town. There's the neighbors, the son's gone off to war, he's died in war, he's come back.
He's died in war and then he's come back.
Oh,
I know what you mean. In bits.
If that seems, she's either got like a bung up Ford Mustang.
And did you hear Stacy's sleeping with Jack from the football team. We saw them making out under the bleachers or something. Like it's quite like American teen drama like
Yeah.
movie. Funny that you
10 Things
mentioned
I Hate
being a
About You.
filmmaker.
I really liked how the different like tropes that Ethel was referring to in this song were not just like painting a picture, but then they would add a commentary to it. So, for example, like the next door brother going off to war and then coming back in a box. And then the follow up line is like, maybe it's his fault because he wanted to go. And just these kind of things that a teenager probably would think about, where they would have that, call it cynical, critical lens to things.
Edge.
Yeah. And I'm just like, that just really helped paint also the picture of the character and where the character is as well, not just the town and the setting that we're in.
Shall we move on to track 3? A House in Nebraska.
Labor breaths and bed sores, our favorite song.
This almost sounds Celtic.
And I still call home on a dirty mattress on the second floor. If we died tonight, that I'd lie to her and say that I still call home. You don't even if we'd cry every day. And the bottles my love, I guess. And you might make feel so alone. I feel so alone here without you.
An interesting long track, and it felt kind of long, especially going from American Teenager. Big instrumentation, like big immediate piano chords. We got a bat sounding guitar solo towards the end that kind of sounded like if you sped it up, it could belong in American Teenager almost.
I got really lost in that song. Like, as in, like, I got really lost into the song and it really enveloped me. I really liked how Ethel layered vocals, both like backing tracks and vocal doubling on the with the main melody, but then also a lot of these like ad libby type. And to me, it really just felt like they were swirling, almost like echoes of maybe their memories, maybe their ghosts, maybe their spirits. But that was kind of the energy that I was picking up, and which has really played into this dream-like, not in a happy way, but dream-like, flashbacky kind of space that we were exploring.
Reminiscing about that house in Nebraska with him.
And in those parts, I really did feel that those sections of the song sounded a bit ballady. It wasn't just like a head over heels in love kind of ballad for sure, but it was ballady in the sense of like it was reminiscing and kind of maybe paying tribute to this relationship and what they had in the past. Also adding into the context that this is canonically a sequel to Willoughby Tucker. I'm like, is she singing about Willoughby?
Oh boy,
Did they
we know him
meet?
so well.
Yeah, is that how they met? A house in Nebraska on a dirty mattress in the second floor, which we know obviously from that album. Spoiler alert! But I guess if you're watching this video, you've probably already listened to Willoughby Tucker. Yeah, that obviously that relationship doesn't work out very well at all. You know, they were pushed apart and things ended up not working out, even though on many occasions they tried from both sides to really make it work and come together, us against the world.
I don't have a clever quip for Western Nights. I mean, America is in the
Look,
West.
I just think that's where we need to go now. That's the direction we're heading.
Bring them on.
He's never looked more beautiful. Sleeping naked when it gets too hot. Through shades of black and blue. Neighbors peed on the walls. How much I mean to you. I'd hold the gun, but if you love me like you say
I kind of disagree with everything I've been saying so far now.
Yeah? What do you disagree with?
Okay, well, so in this song, the opening line painted a very clear picture.
Hmm.
He never looked more beautiful. He's never looked more beautiful on his Harley in the parking lot, breaking into the ATMs. I don't think we're actually talking about Willoughby, and I no longer think, I suspect maybe the last song was not talking about Willoughby.
Hmm.
Because I was thinking, wait a second, what the Harley imagery and all of that, I'm like, feels different to Willoughby because we got quite a lot of the backstory about how that relationship formed um, in the last album, and I'm pretty sure it's like remembers like small town, um, sort of met each other in that situation. Originally liked Janie, the sister, etc. You do remember that origin story, right? So I'm like, this feels different. Willoughby ain't on a Harley.
Do you think this is
Um,
post Willoughby?
Only because I know that this album is post Willoughby. That then started to make me think, well, wait a second. My geography of the world is not the best, but it's even worse than America. But I'm pretty sure Willoughby, the album, didn't take place in Nebraska. And Willoughby was from the same town as Ethel, if I remember correctly. So this person that we're now singing about in A House in Nebraska must be a different person because that's where they met
Mm.
in Nebraska.
We're also very much away from home in this song.
That was the last thought that was coming to me as well. So I think we're talking about a different person now, a different guy. I also noted at the beginning of this song, there was I don't know if it's a drum or whether it's some kind of like plug-in sound of like something falling and creating like a doom doom kind of sound effect. But this is the second song I noticed where that was being used, and I was kind of in a rhythm that is alluding to a heartbeat. I'm pretty sure we had it in Family Tree, and then again it happened at the beginning of Western Nights as well. And there was just something about the way that the guitar was being played and like the instrumentation that made me feel like again we're peering into like a flashback or like recounting something that happened.
I just from this one, we're away from home, kind of like feeling like you're so devoted to this person, but also just being conscious that like you're in a spot that you're not familiar with. You're like out of your element. You're thinking about what's happening back home. I just get a sense of like displacement, but it's very clear that Ethel in her lyricism is just so attached to this person. I wonder if that's like a coping mechanism or something. If we're saying this is post Willoughby, I wonder if some of this is kind of like, what do you call it, rebound?
Yeah. There is a section here that I think sort of is alluding to maybe how this relationship is going to turn out. I haven't spoken to my dad in a long, long time, but it's the second half of this verse that I thought that was sticking to me. But the neighborhood keeps getting smaller, all starved out when the money's paper thin. All that's left are your walls, and you'll die there. I should have known that there's no getting in. And so maybe this is another reference, like a reference to another person who, because of their past experiences, because of the trauma and any other challenges that they're facing now, is just going to prevent them from being able to enter into a relationship that Ethel is either desiring or having some kind of relationship form, which is exactly what happened with Willoughby.
Yeah, Hayden, Ethel, and Ethel Cain. You gotta find yourself some people who are a little bit less guarded because this seems like a trend here.
Who knows? Maybe we'll find out more about the roots of where all this comes from in Family Tree, which is a reprisal of the title. But whether it's a reprise as a song, we'll find out when you press the button.
These crosses all over
I think I might have heard this song.
my
Must have been like a single or something.
let her make a woman out of me. And the preacher talks that man to man.
Really digging this plucking texture that we're getting.
Interesting that you'd have a picked bass guitar with like a song like this.
So take me on the back of your white horse.
It almost sounds a little out of time, the way some of these are placed, these instruments.
Don't scare me, I've been take me down to the and the bones takes me
Damn. This song I noted, I think it's the lowest we've heard Ethel sing. It was in a very low register. It gave me the vibe of I've been wounded. That wound has healed, but it's healed with like a crusted scar.
And
And the
callous.
scar, the skin has now calloused or like it's toughened. And you know, the way you move, you can feel it's there and it adds something to your character. It adds something to your perspective. Your perspective is now burdened and it has this extra like it's the trauma, right? And I think we're hearing a lot of like with the connections of like the parallels in the in Family Tree intro to like parenting and family tree and where you come from. That's clearly speaking to say like generational trauma or like trauma that your parents carry that then affects you. There's also a religious element in here as well with so many different, obviously preacher's daughter, but then many reference like Christian references as well. And I think a lot of uh, the trope that comes along with that about being in a like a conservative Christian environment. Yeah, this song sounded like she's old and wizened and she's done shit in her time and like we're now on that side of the hill.
There's a lot of obviously like violent, revenge fueled or like angst fueled imagery here. I'm wondering if there's like some abuse that's gone on that we're alluding to here that we'll learn about throughout the album because I get these experiences from her and I get these emotions from her, but I'm still like wondering like what there's more to the story that there's info that I don't have
Yeah.
where I'm like trying to fill in gaps and I'm like, where are we going with this? I'm curious.
I get what you mean. Like I'm not getting like a clear recap or like exposition of a sequence of events.
Yeah, I wonder if that change in tone carries through.
To Hard times.
We need a new. Actually, it might be too soon. I was gonna say we need a new Paramore record, but give it a couple years, I think. Here we go. First time we've gotten guitar chords in the album, because before it's just been piano and then soaring leads.
under the leaves. I hate this story. Where happy little girl who needs her daddy. Real bad types of love could be bad, and all of the things that you did not scares me. Too tired to move, too tired to make, too
kind of like entering a bit of a meditative kind of it's a bit of like a mantra.
Yeah, it felt very dreamy in a different way to the past few songs. It felt more daydreamy than like wallowing and like the depths of like a darkness. Not to say at all that this song is light though, because I get a very distinct turn and departure from any assumptions I had in the past track that we're still talking about biker ATM stealing lover.
Really?
I don't think we're talking about him anymore. And
What are we talking about now?
I think we're talking about abuse that runs in the family.
Oh.
9 going on 18, and then like talking about innocence contrasted
Mm.
with bad guy, good guy. Who do you think is, often the best guy when you're really young? It's the one that's been there as your role model.
I'm still tied to you because it's family. Like you can't change your connection to family. I mean, you can be estranged, but you're still tied to each other
Yeah,
as relations.
in the same family tree. The other one that like really like stirred me in a different way from the way that I've been like assuming some of the other images have been painted and who they were referring to is
Hmm.
probably, I'll circle back on this, but the line, "You watched me dancing right there." So in the corner on my birthday, you watched me dancing right there in the grass. I was too young to notice that some types of a love could be bad. And then reflecting on praying I'd be like you, doing all the things you do, that scares me. So like acknowledging also after, growing up and all of that, seeing things in yourself that remind you of the way you were treated in the past that you can't escape because you were, you know, family tree, but you also would have learned some of that growing up.
Hmm.
And it's
Hmm.
very interesting that this kind of the song where I catch a lot of this is the one that feels lighter by comparison
Well,
musically.
because I thought that again, the choice of how Ethel sang this song felt very intentional, especially how it contrasts to Family Tree, where we had such a low, weathered quality in the way that she was singing. And I was thinking, we have heard her sing like this in this album before. This had a clear quality to it. We also had a clear quality in American Teenager, right? When she's a teenager growing up, still innocent, still had like so much like maybe
Naivety.
yeah, do you know what I mean? Like that brightness and outlook towards life, etc. Obviously, now we have had all these experiences, these traumatic experiences, these negative experiences. It's a pause in the narrative momentum, and the characters taking an aside, and their inner being, like their true inner being, inside all of the layers of stuff that has built up on their personalities because of the experiences, and that's where it's coming from, and we're getting an insight to like the inner voice or the inner self, who is that same person that we met in American Teenager before a lot of this other stuff happened. um but obviously the perspective is coming from the experience and just feeling like I'm a bit done. I'm done trying to either escape, trying to be someone different. I'm tired in fighting.
It also makes me think that the little moment that we had in Western Nights with like the bad boy away from home or whatever, that kind of stuff,
Mm.
I feel like that was almost a distraction from the point of like what we're
An
trying to
attempted
get to.
escapism, just like to do anything that was not that,
Yeah.
as in like from home, and the home environment.
Next one's called Thoroughfare. I have no clever quips for Thoroughfare,
That's,
unfortunately. Not a word I use very often.
that's right. Just continue along.
You fell in love with America, see it all.
The voices change genres. If it gets slapped in the face by a harmonica in a song.
On the side of the road, in some torn up club, honey, love's never met, but we made off for California. I could see a man who was, and anyone left to leave, and no one left to love. Love's out there, and I can't leave. Me deep inside
This is now the Fleetwood Mac portion of the song. That song felt so weird to me. Such an immediate departure from every other song in the album, except again for American Teenager, because that in itself was a genre departure from the other songs that we had in the album. This felt like it was maybe like 3 genres in one song, and we kind of slowly moved between them. I think as we were traveling across this like landscape,
Thoroughfare,
perhaps. No, like cross state lines, like there was mention of California, and I felt like the instrumentation went from like a country rock to like a folk rock, and then we moved, but there was no mention of a third state. I guess we hit the coast, and then we went from like a folky rock to a classic rock, and then we faded out into like a very, I don't know what I'd call it, like bohemian, like not quite like gypsy, like probably one step before that in terms of the instrumentation used, but sounded to me almost like getting into a bit of Fleetwood Mac territory. Lots of shakers happening and lots of It feels like this whole song is just an escape in maybe the same way that Western Nights was like an escape in terms of subject matter. This is both an escape in terms of subject matter and in terms of instrumentation. So they both kind of come together and give me that sense of like almost whiplash.
I guess this is around the halfway point of the album, and we know that typically that's when there's a bit of a pivot in the story as well. Typically in an album, and after I think sort of reaching the heaviest point and literally the lowest sonically in Family Tree, and then coming out of that into Hard Times. Maybe this is that transition of like traversing into wherever we're going to end up at the end of this story. As someone who's like, I mean, I don't know genres and like technical stuff as well as you do. To me, kind of it seemed to blend and flow quite well. And maybe because I don't know the definitions, it wasn't like, oh, this is one genre and now that's another genre, and it like catching in my brain. Who do you think Ethel is talking to in this song? It doesn't sound like
who's the other subject?
Yeah, it doesn't sound like a parent or the Harley boy.
I think this
lover.
is another flavor of a type of boy that the Harley type boy is, like another kind of person that you find in an environment that's not one you're familiar with and like glom onto. Like I feel like this person isn't someone that we've seen before in the album or the Ethel Cain chronology. It's yet another new person.
Okay.
That's the vibe that I get.
And maybe it's someone who's described, because just with those lyrics about like, let's go out there, let's go see the world, let's go find the love that's out there. Maybe it's a bit more of this like boho hippie kind of aura.
This guy sounds slick. Like, love is out there somewhere, but it just so happens to be you. Like by the end. Sounds like he's like much older than her. That's just like a little vibe that I get. Like the doe-eyed girl, slick traveler man who like knows exactly what to say at each turn, and like
you don't think he's genuine. I think he's a bit schmick.
It's like the kind of vibe where like this guy's probably done this 4 or 5 times. Like gone through this like little thing. Not that it's not genuine, but it's like, what are you up to? What's your full-time job? Okay, so the next one's Gibson Girl. Fun fact for you, and I don't have any out at the moment, Gibson is an iconic American guitar brand. Maybe that was played on a Gibson.
Love me right now. You are far away. As I says, pour in another while I shake my head. If it feels good, that only you can have. You wanna see me on my knees.
The last bit kind of made me feel like the whole song was like playing on like a club stereo or something, and like we weren't really like living it. We were just
Mm.
like seeing it.
Mm. And I think that it was that warped texture of the filtering or the plugin that was being used on the vocals there, of like this kind of, yeah, sort of like fake reality warped version.
Yeah.
The technique reminded me a little bit of the version of Crazy in Love, like Beyonce's Crazy in Love that they did for 50 Shades of Grey, the
Oh, like the
movie.
movie trailer sounding like harsh
Yeah,
cuts.
and it was like this kind of like surreal dystopian kind of vibes of reality. And I feel like, yeah, a lot of the techniques used here did that as well.
There's certainly hip hop influence in certain places. There's like a very slick, I don't want to say jazz bar kind of vibe because
Yeah, no,
we're
I
not
see what you mean.
jazzy, but we're like,
Yeah, the chords in there.
this reminds me of, once again, early Lana Del Rey, but like her like edgier tracks, her slicker, kind of more moody tracks, but with another level of like clarity and edge on it. Like it feels like it's more on the forefront to the point where it doesn't feel like genuine. And I think that's the point.
Well, maybe, in the previous song, we were talking about traveling, and we did literally travel so far in Thoroughfare. And then
Truck
whatever,
guy fucked off somewhere.
whatever that adventure has led to, and now Ethel's dancing in a bar, and kind of a bit numb. It's like not really. It's disconnected from. You're in reality, but you're disconnected from reality.
Let's see what Ptolemaea. Ptolemaea.
I followed you in, but not like I do. Love you, love you, love you, love you, love you.
Saying I'm the one who's gonna take me, calling me the one on the way. Even the arms that I put on the floor at night comes
Sweet morning lamb.
Tell me, what have you done? Stop, 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 stop.
Did you ever play the game Baldur's Gate 3?
No,
Or hear
I've
about it?
had so many people tell me that I would enjoy it, but I have not purchased, let alone played it.
There's a part in the game, not central to the main plot, where you meet a demon and you like, or a devil or whatever, and you can like make a deal with him. And if you renege on the deal, he like brings you into his realm and you have to like fight him. This feels like we're in the devil's realm and we're confronting the
Yeah,
devil.
I very much got that as well. And when I started to think about, I was like, as the song was playing, and where does a song with non-diegetic sound begin or end, and a soundscape begin? Do you know what I mean? Like, this was so rich in like different sounds and things going on, this real distorted, hellish feeling, combined with the last song having that disconnection from reality that we were talking from. And I recall that there was a brief mention of like drugs in that song, which I didn't really like latch onto because it was only once I went back to look at the lyrics that it came up. And so I wonder if this detachment from reality is related to drugs then.
This one's a lot more industrial sounding. There's parts where we get rock instrumentation as well, but very clearly different. And then just where we go in the song, it's like very much like a fever dream, a lot of surreal kind of feelings for me, and just
In a nightmarish kind of way.
yeah, we've kind of over the past couple of songs, I think, solidified that this is we're going through a story, and there's like scenes to the story, different eras. Hayden has mentioned that she is passionate about filmmaking and like wanted to be a filmmaker. I get both a like very clearly this is a beat in the story where we if we're doing the drug analogy, go through the drug filled dreamscape, but
Mm.
also like a confronting of like inner turmoil in like a very vivid way where that kind of gets embodied by like a voice or a second character.
I did look up what Ptolemaea means. It's a reference to Dante's Inferno, which is a text
And also
and a section of hell.
mid Xbox 360 game as well.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, it wasn't very good.
Okay. But let's escape all of it now that we are almost at the end of August and
What's one layer above hell? The underground.
the underground.
Oh, is this a no lyrics song?
You mean an instrumental?
Similar like texture and tonal palette to the previous track, just minus Satan.
To me, for it also had a similar vibe to, like, say, Gibson Girl, but it was adding in back in that ethereal ghost nature that we were having in the first half
Yeah.
of the album. It made me feel like, obviously, the last song got so intense and so overwhelming, and Ethel was like hitting into like such a dark place. Is this then like it's reached a breaking point, and it's that stillness after the intensity? Was it alluded to early in the album, or did someone say it in the comments that she passes away, I think, in this album? She's not well. She's not good.
She's just met Satan that would shake anyone. You ever see any like funny old videos of televangelists like knocking people down?
No, I'm not familiar.
They do the
with
thing
this
where they do the
reference
like
either.
they do the big like Jesus wave, and then all the people like pretend they get knocked back for like
Oh.
effect when
I am watching Orange is the New Black.
oh
And one of the characters goes on this whole like Christian, I'm like the vessel of God. Lay hands, you shall be healed, my child. Story arc. So I can kind of picture that, I suppose.
maybe that's what this
Yeah,
televangelism.
Pennsatucky.
It's been a long time since I've even thought about Orange is the New Black. Is it still going? No.
No, it's rewatching online.
All right, televangelism. Another instrumental, I think. Where I could see the title still working is like, where do you see televangelism at home on TV? Maybe
Hmm.
this is just like the sounds of the piano at home. Similarly to the last one, aside from the obvious no lyrics, like it just feels like another. We're in a different place, but it's the same vibe where something's off, and we're just kind of like existing in a vibe.
Well, it's an incredibly like acoustic track, right? With the and I want to say upright piano. Gosh, that'd be crazy if I could tell the difference between an upright or a grand piano.
Oh, you can tell.
No, for me.
It's because upright pianos, like they naturally have a little bit less sustain, even when you're not playing the
Yeah, or
sustain
like the
pedal.
timbre is a bit more nasal or something like. Anyway, it was very real world, and also the melody that was being played by the piano was so simple.
Until the
You
end,
know.
at least. Because then in the end, we got the warping.
Especially after that hellish one, after Ptolemy, both tracks are very sobering as an audience listener to snap out of that intensity.
To wake up from it and just like
Yeah.
be in the real world. The next track is the second to last track. I read it as Sun Bleached Files, and I was gonna be like, oh, I hate when
No.
that happens.
No, sun bleached flies, which instantly makes me think of like a carcass whale on a beach. Well, because like flies, carcass, sun bleached, beached whale.
I'm thinking like, how does a fly get sun bleached? Wouldn't it just die? I don't
Let's
know.
find out.
Sun bleached flies sitting in the talk all about their money and how what I wouldn't give to be in charge. God loves you, but not in this heart would break and fall this tight. But I still feel like they're not watching it go by from the side. I think it's about time, but I always knew that in the end it's holding my if it's meant to be, then maybe always it comes back to me. Praying for that house in Hanson with the windows open.
The main feeling I got throughout all of that was reflection, just on like all of the emotions and all of the memories, at least the ones that matter to the protagonist, that we've given we've been given insights into, and then like this expands on some of them too. So reflecting back to childhood, being in church, breathing in the poison of the paint.
Well, those references really reminded me of like things like parents would talk about in a gossipy kind of way or whatever, and it's not really actually important. And I just find that analyzing them like as these flies that are like trying to escape, I guess, the life that they're living, but they can't because the window is closed. And they think it's nice and happy because of the sun, but actually it's not healthy because of the pain. An interesting reference that I thought was actually kind of nuanced in there was the reference to what I wouldn't give to be in church this Sunday, listening to the choir, so heartfelt, all singing. And even though both albums made many references to how that sort of like conservative Christian environment that they were in was very constraining for them. At the same time, having that ritual of church
It's familiar.
also it's familiar, and it does have a certain like sense of providing safety. I'm just thinking about like, I mean, I grew up in a Catholic family, and that even now, like, I mean, even though I identify as like agnostic now, when I attend church, the ritual of it and the familiarity of it, and you're standing and you're sitting, and then there's the readings and they talk about stuff, and then there's the songs and stuff like that. Like that ritual does provide that security because it's something that I just grew up with.
And then after everything that the protagonist has been through, with all of the different places they've been and all of the people that they've met for better and for worse, mostly for worse, even though that wasn't a great point in time because of reasons that we've heard about, it was at the very least seemingly simpler and more familiar. Last song on the album is also one that I recognize by name, but I think I've heard it, but I don't remember it super well.
Strangers.
In your basement, I grow cold. Freeze you bite your sweet teeth. I never considered myself. I tried to be good, and I know whole world never does. Can I be yours? Can I be my mother sees me on the side of I'm all over you. I'm all over you. Be yours. Can I want you just to tell you that I made it real far. You'll never sleep a wink at night again.
Well, that was certainly a track.
What? What?
Let's talk about how it sounded. That was the second or third most like singly sounding, like popular-y sounding track. And if you were none the wiser, you'd think like, and you were just, you know, a Becky or a John listening to it on the good old radio, you'd be like, wow, I love this Ethel chick. Wow, so boppy.
representing my own personal views and not as a representation of Just Heard Incorporated LLC. The wholesomeness of the acoustic guitar, of the uplifting, you could say, high vocals,
Yeah.
really was juxtaposing against what Ethel was singing about.
Yeah.
And to me, that just made it even more intense.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure at the beginning, but as the song went on, I think it became quite apparent that Ethel has indeed passed away, potentially not of natural causes and potentially not of her own doing. And
She has become dinner.
she has become dinner, more than she's more than a snack.
She's a meal.
She's a full meal. For I'm guessing this guy that we met maybe in Thoroughfare.
I called it, didn't I?
You did.
I called it. I
You
fucking
did.
called it.
I
ain't getting murdered.
And I like the use of not direct, but still quite obvious imagery, which could be, you know, is references to the cannibalism, but it can also be read as their relationship and their emotional dynamic as well, you know, and even in death, even as this horrific thing is happening to her body, she still wants to be good enough for this guy.
I got the sense that before this track, in the previous one and maybe even the one before, there was a remembering of like a love earlier in life to like a Willoughby. I wonder if the adoration in this track is almost like a tongue in cheek, like a I'm still not good enough for you now. Like when obviously you're like dead and in someone's attic / basement. We like crested a hill in the previous track, acknowledging that we will never be removed from our feelings for who we now know to be Willoughby potentially. So to me, like it does obviously give that vibe where it's like an inadequacy and like a continuing to beg and long and all of that. But I had like a maybe it's more tongue in cheek and it's like overplayed on purpose. We can't ignore the fact that we just had a poppy song about murder cannibalism, which I feel like you could only really do as Ethel Cain right now in the music popular sphere that exists currently. So I appreciate that uniqueness.
I like all the layers. So, like in the bridge, she repeats, "Am I making you feel?" But there are variations. Am I making you feel sick? Am I making you feel? And I feel like she could both be talking to this guy who's, eating her in the literal sense of, am I making you physically sick? Am I making you feel sick also, like that you've killed me, or like in relation to their relationship? But then I think also to us as the audience as well, in confronting this part of her story.
Well, we have just heard Preacher's Daughter by Ethel Cain. The only one that remains is Perverts.
Oh, so the third album's already here. Am I?
It's in between the two. I don't know if it exists in the chronology. I think it's detached.
Ah,
I don't think it's
wait,
part of the
there's a third
storyline.
album.
There is, but it's like, it's different. It's the one that I mentioned when we did our first video, where it's like very droney and very like long.
That's the drone album. That's right. You did mention
Yeah,
that when you're on a plane.
I don't think it fits in
No,
to the story at all.
Okay.
Ethel Cain viewers, if you want if you want Perverts, let us know.
The album, Perverts, the album.
Perverts, the album by Ethel Cain. It's full circle for me now, and I was kind of building this image with Willoughby. It's full circle to me that we are Ethel Hayden Anhedonia Cain the third Esquire is doing storytelling, not necessarily like these are experiences that I've had, but maybe they are, wink wink, maybe they aren't, but is like telling us the story of Ethel Cain through her experiences in this fictional, non-fictional world, which I wasn't fully like aware of as we were listening to Willoughby. I was like, okay, there's clearly some characterization here, but is it real life with certain things subbed out, or is it a story? And here I think because Hayden's still alive, so
when I think about the few times that when I've written stories, you draw on your experiences as inspiration. And even though the story itself may not be something that has literally happened to you, a lot of like the elements of it, it's like, maybe it's relationship with parents, maybe it's a relationship with religion, relationship with the church as an institution,
yeah,
small town background, wanting to break free, doing things to try and like break free from that. That was just anything that was the opposite of what you were trying to escape, even if it wasn't good for you. All of those things, and you take those inspirations and then you weave it into a story.
Yeah.
I remember when I was listening to Willoughby Tucker, "I'll Always Love You," that same awe in me came over me, because I'm like, wow, like Hayden is also one of these artists that is doing this, and they're a okay, maybe singer-songwriter, composer, I think is a much more fitting title for Hayden.
Yeah, and we got some of that here, but also what I do see between this album, Willoughby, and then potentially Perverts in between is a real growth. Like, I will admit, in this album, the artistic flair and the prowess, I see buds of it here, but I saw it really flexed in Willoughby. So while it is a little bit more basic here, and there are some areas where I would make,
Right.
having heard Willoughby, I trust the growth. I trust the growth stage that Hayden's gotten to in Willoughby to make potentially some more effective decisions than in Preacher's Daughter. I will acknowledge that this album was a stepping stone for Hayden to get onto her growth journey as an artist.
At the same time, I think it is crazy that this is someone's first album.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I don't know how much music like she put out before.
Like, mostly demos and stuff before.
Yeah, but like this is an like album as a body. There's a lot of albums where it's like thematically connected, but mostly a collection of songs. This was like a body of work that needs to be listened in order for maximum impact.
If I were a brand new listener, and if you've already watched this in the previous video, then you're probably not this demographic, but if I were to recommend a listening order for a brand new Ethel Cain listener, I wouldn't go in terms of chronology of like the storyline. I would
Start with Preachers.
I would give them Preachers first and then Willoughby. I think it's appropriate.
I want to go away and think about, again, there was someone in the comments who's like, oh, this is unusual that, because I've only just been introduced to Ethel Cain and to Hayden in general.
Same here mostly.
To have heard Willoughby and then Preachers, whereas most people, it's been Preachers and then Willoughby. And I'm curious now to go away and think how maybe my understanding of Preachers might have been different if I didn't have that background context canonically of what happens in Willoughby.
Well, in any case, thank you for joining us on the journey, the Ethel Cain journey. It's not over. If you want perverts, let us know. But in any case, we hope you like us enough to stick around, new viewers. We'll see you on our next little thing. Bye-bye.